You know how it is. You're scrolling late at night and you stumble onto a show about the pyramids. And then comes that big dramatic question. Could ancient people really have built these incredible things all by themselves? It's a super captivating idea, right? This theory that maybe, just maybe, they had a little extraterrestrial help. And honestly, it has become a huge deal in pop culture. I mean, that's the big one, isn't it? Did aliens build the pyramids? You hear the same thing about the Nazca lines in Peru or the giant statues on Easter Island. But what if that's completely the wrong question to be asking? What if the real mystery isn't who built the pyramids, but why we're so quick to ask if it was aliens in the first place?
And yeah, if you've ever gone down this rabbit hole, you definitely know this guy. The show Ancient Aliens has been on for over 15 seasons now? It took a pretty fringe idea and made it a global sensation. But today, we're going to look past the hair, past the memes, and dig into what's really going on under the surface of all this seemingly harmless.
And this is where things get a little uncomfortable, because according to the sources we've been digging into, these fun theories aren't just based on wild imagination. Nope, they're built on a foundation that's actually deeply biased and, frankly, pretty troubling. Let's break down what that really means. So there's actually a name for this stuff: pseudo-archaeology. It sounds kind of scientific, but it's really not. At its heart, the core idea is simple, and honestly, it's pretty insulting. It's the idea that ancient people just weren't smart enough or capable enough to pull off their own greatest achievements. So the thinking goes, somebody else must have stepped in to help. And this is where the pattern becomes impossible to miss. Just look at this. On one side, you've got ancient Greece and Rome. When was the last time you saw a big TV show seriously asking if aliens built the Parthenon? Almost never, right? But then, on the other side, you have the incredible works of people in ancient Egypt, Peru, or indigenous communities all across Africa and the Americas. And that's where the alien theories suddenly pop up. It's a very specific kind of doubt.
So where did this selective skepticism even come from? Well, to figure that out, we have to go back way before the UFO craze of the 20th century. The sources show that these ideas have much deeper and, to be honest, much darker roots in something one author calls spooky archaeology.
Yet long before we were dreaming up little green men from other planets, people explained things they didn't understand by crediting extra humans. Think of them as beings that were, more than human but not quite gods. We're talking fairies, jinn, legendary ancestors from some long-forgotten golden age.
And check this out. It's the perfect example. For hundreds of years in Europe, if you found an ancient arrowhead like this one, it was called an elf shot. People genuinely believed that fairies had magical weapons and were firing them at people to make them sick. It is the exact same logic we see today. A culture finds something from its own deep past that it no longer understands, so it invents a non-human creator.
Okay, so why was this logic used so much more against non-European cultures? The sources point to this really brutal colonial idea called collapsed proto-history. Basically, colonizers would show up and just delete a people's entire past, defining them only by what they were like in that one moment of contact. By doing that, their ancestors' incredible achievements suddenly seemed impossible, and that created a vacuum that these myths just rushed in to fill. And this became an incredibly useful political tool. I mean, take 19th century America as an example. The huge, complex earthwork mounds built by Native Americans, they were credited to a mythical, lost race of mound builders. And this wasn't just a fantasy story. This myth was actually used to justify things like the Indian Removal Act. The logic was twisted but simple. If Native peoples didn't build these amazing structures, then they had no ancient claim to the land. Now let's fast forward to the 20th century. The colonial playbook is pretty much the same, but the characters get a modern update. The mythical lost white race was just swapped out for a new, exciting, space-age mythmaker: aliens. This whole idea just exploded in 1968 with Erich von Däniken's book, Chariots of the Gods. He basically argued that ancient astronauts were the real brains behind humanity's greatest wonders. And you have to remember, this was right in the middle of the space race. The public was totally obsessed with the cosmos and was completely ready for a story like this. And the impact was just mind-blowing. Chariots of the Gods has sold over 65 million copies. That's not just a bestseller, that's a cultural earthquake. It didn't just sell a book, it basically hardwired the ancient astronaut theory into our collective imagination for decades.
So, what's the ideology hiding behind this theory? Well, you don't really have to look that hard. This is a direct quote from another one of von Daniken's books. It's not subtle. It's explicitly framing human history in racial hierarchies, straight up asking if black people were a failure and suggesting that aliens literally programmed different races. It's right there. And look, this isn't some abstract academic argument. The sources are really clear on this point. These theories cause real, actual harm. They're basically a modern form of colonialism, a theft of history from the descendants of the very people who created it.
As the political scientist Evaristo Banheira says, when you claim aliens built Great Zimbabwe, you are actively robbing the Shona people of their heritage, their intellectual property. He doesn't mince words. He calls it simply theft of history. And this story from archaeologist Sarah Koenig just hits so hard. It really shows you the real-world impact. She talks about meeting a Mayan tour guide, a man who believed a carving made by his own ancestors was actually a picture of an astronaut. Think about that for a second. Instead of feeling pride in his own people's genius, he was in awe of a myth from a TV show. His own history was stolen from him. So at the end of the day, this is so much more than just a silly theory. It's an act of cultural erasure. When you rob indigenous peoples of their incredible achievements, you're just reinforcing the same harmful stereotypes and colonial attitudes that we're still fighting against today. So let's just put all the pieces together. The real key here is to see the clear line that connects what starts as a fun idea all the way to its very real, very harmful consequences. So just think about the path this all takes. It starts with a seemingly fun theory about aliens. But that theory only works if you accept its biased premise, that some people, specifically non-white people, couldn't have done what they did. That premise, we've seen, has direct roots in colonial racism, and the end result, today, is the ongoing erasure of history, robbing people of their own heritage. So the next time you hear one of these wild theories about how some ancient wonder was really built, maybe the first question shouldn't be, is this true? Maybe a better question to ask is, who gets the credit in this story? And even more importantly, whose incredible human achievement is being erased to tell it?